The bell above the door of Lily's Bridal and Alterations gave its familiar soft chime. But inside the little shop, the air felt heavy. Sarah Bennett stood at the counter, clutching a worn photograph of her 6-year-old daughter, Emma, dressed in last year's too-small church dress. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Lilly. I have to cancel the birthday dress," Sarah whispered, her voice cracking like thin ice. I can't pay the balance right now." Mrs. Lilly, silver-haired and gentle as always, reached across the glass counter and covered Sarah's trembling hand with her own. "Sweetheart, the deposit stays with me. We'll keep the pattern. When things get easier—" Sarah shook her head, eyes already glistening. "Thank you. Truly. Emma doesn't know yet. I'll figure something out." In the corner, half hidden behind racks of satin and lace, a man in a quiet navy coat lowered the newspaper he'd been pretending to read. Alexander Cole had come to this small Virginia town only because his private jet needed unexpected maintenance. He had planned to wait in the car, but the cold November rain had driven him inside the warm glow of the shop. He was worth billions, yet in that moment he felt strangely small, listening to a mother apologize for wanting to give her little girl one beautiful thing. Mrs. Lilly sighed as the door closed behind Sarah. "That poor woman. Lost her husband 2 years ago, works double shifts at the diner and still barely keeps the lights on. That dress was sky blue, Emma's favorite color, with tiny embroidered stars. The child saw the sample and said it looked like the sky was hugging her." Alexander folded the paper and stood. "The sky blue one with the stars?" Mrs. Lilly startled. "Oh, I didn't see you there, sir." "Yes. Heartbreaking, isn't it?" He glanced at the rain-streaked window where Sarah was climbing into a dented sedan, shoulders folded inward. "Finish the dress," he said quietly, "and anything else that would make a 6-year-old feel like a princess for a day. Send the bill to me." Mrs. Lilly's eyes widened. "Sir, that's very kind, but—" He insisted. He offered a small, sad smile. "My own daughter never got to wear the dress we picked out. Cancer took her before her 7th birthday. If I can give one little girl the day my Ellie never had, please let me." 3 days later, Emma Bennett woke to the smell of pancakes shaped like stars. Sarah had done her best: paper streamers from the dollar store, a homemade banner that read, "Happy 6th birthday, Emma." But her smile didn't quite reach her eyes.
"Mommy, is today really my birthday?" Emma asked, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "It really is, baby." Sarah kissed the top of her curly head. "Eaty breakfast, then a surprise." Emma's face fell just a little. "Is the sky dress coming?" Sarah's heart cracked. "Not this year, sweetheart, but we'll have the best day anyway." A soft knock came at the apartment door. Sarah opened it to find Mrs. Lilly, eyes shining, holding the most beautiful dress Emma had ever seen, sky blue tulle sprinkled with tiny silver stars that caught the morning light like real constellations. Behind her stood several neighbors carrying boxes of cupcakes, balloons, and a hand-painted sign that read, "Princess Emma's Royal Tea Party." Emma's scream of joy could have shattered glass. She flew into the dress, twirling until the skirt floated around her like a cloud. Sarah stood frozen, tears sliding down her cheeks as Mrs. Lilly pressed a small note into her hand. It read, "You are doing everything right. Let someone carry a little of the weight today. A friend who once needed the same kindness." The party spilled into the courtyard of the apartment complex. Someone had strung fairy lights. Someone else brought a portable speaker, playing gentle Disney songs. Children from the building arrived in paper crowns. Even old Mr. Jenkins from 2B wore a plastic tiara and declared himself Knight of the Cupcakes. Sarah kept searching faces for the stranger who had done this, but no one seemed to know who had paid for it all. She only knew her daughter was laughing so hard she could barely breathe, cheeks flushed, eyes brighter than the stars on her dress. As the sun dipped low, painting everything gold, a quiet man in navy coat watched from the edge of the courtyard. Alexander Cole had canceled his flight. He told his pilot the jet needed one more day of maintenance. Truth was, he couldn't leave. Not yet. Emma spotted him standing alone and marched over, dress sparkling. "Are you the prince who brought my sky dress?" she asked without fear. Alexander knelt so they were eye to eye. "No, sweetheart. I'm just someone who knows how important sky dresses are." Emma considered this solemnly, then hugged him hard around the neck. "Thank you for making my mommy smile again." Something inside the billionaire's chest, something he'd kept locked since the day he buried his little girl, cracked wide open. Later that evening, when the balloons were sagging and the children gone home sticky with frosting, Sarah found a second note tucked into Emma's tiny beaded purse. "Sarah, your daughter said you work at Daisy's Diner on Main Street. Please come see me tomorrow at noon. Table in the back. I promise I'm not a stranger who means harm, just a father who remembers what it's like to feel the world is too heavy. Alexander."
She went. Of course she did. He was already there, 2 cups of coffee waiting. When she sat, he didn't offer money or grand gestures. He simply said, "My wife and I started a foundation after we lost Ellie. We help parents who are trying so hard they forget to breathe. I'd like to help with whatever comes next. Daycare, nursing school, groceries, whatever you'll let us carry. No cameras, no repayment, just paying forward the kindness we needed once." Sarah studied the man across from her, eyes red-rimmed like hers used to be every night, hands that shook slightly around the coffee cup. She saw grief worn quietly, the way she wore hers. "Why us?" she whispered. He looked out the window where children were walking home from school. "Because 6 years ago, someone canceled my daughter's sky dress too, and no one was there to change that story." Over the next months, life softened around the edges for Sarah and Emma. Daycare bills disappeared. Sarah enrolled in night classes to become an X-ray technician, something she'd dreamed of but never dared hope for. Emma learned to read under the fairy lights that somehow never came down from their living room ceiling. Alexander came to town often, not with private jets and fanfare, but with children's books and the quiet steadiness of someone who understood long nights and longer fears. He and Sarah would sit on the courtyard bench after Emma fell asleep, talking about everything and nothing: grief, guilt, the terrifying beauty of second chances. One spring evening, Emma ran to him with a new drawing, 3 stick figures under a night sky full of stars. One tall, one medium, one small, holding hands. "This is my family now. You can be in it if you want." Alexander looked at Sarah, eyes asking the question he was too afraid to voice. Sarah answered by reaching for his hand. Sometimes the greatest gifts aren't wrapped in tulle or paid for with billions. Sometimes they're the quiet moments when a stranger chooses to see your pain and stays. Sometimes one canceled dress becomes the beginning of a sky wide enough for all the stars you thought you'd lost forever. If this story touched something soft inside you tonight, share it with someone who needs to remember that kindness still walks among us, often in the places we least expect.